Welcome to today's episode of Let's Talk Dog Business, where we deep dive into why dog trainers are amazing at confusing their clients. So I feel like we need to dig into the customer journey because there is so much confusion about this in a dog trainer's eyes, and they overwhelm themselves with the whole process of getting somebody to work with them. And in doing so, we can really confuse clients.
It's very true. It's very true. Let's backtrack it a little bit then. So what is the customer journey?
So the first part of the customer journey for me, or for the customer, is how they first hear about you. What's the very first point of contact that they are going to have with you? And I think that's the place to start, isn't it? And it's often the bit that we get wrong.
Yeah, it's... Everything always interlinks, doesn't it? But you have to... I suppose there's two elements to a customer journey, isn't it? You've got the inquiry process, and then you've got the customer journey once you've got them as a customer.
Yeah.
So you could almost split it into two categories.
You could.
So if we're looking at it from the sales side of it, in terms of how are they even going to get to you to potentially buy your services, yeah, like where are they hearing about you? Where are you visible?
Mm-hmm.
What information do they have about you? How do they contact you? Where do they find more information about you? I feel like there's a few more.
What's the call to action?
Yeah.
What do they need to do to get that first step to actually start that process off of maybe working with you?
Yeah. So there's a fair bit.
There's quite a lot, isn't there? Like, our advice with this is to break it down into every single step and literally write everything down.
Yeah.
And take yourself out of it, because we know the process. We know it like the back of our hand. We know what we're going to do with that person once we've got contact from them. But is that the right journey for that client?
Yeah. You really have to, it's a good point to take yourself out of that process, in terms of, if you can't look at it in a way that you're too close to it, if you can't take a step back and go, hold on, I can look at this with a fresh set of eyes and realistically see it without any bias from your opinion on it, get somebody else to do it.
Yeah, we really like this, don't we? Getting friends, family, but you need them to be absolutely honest and truthful about it, and not just be like, yeah, it's quite good. And actually, if they were a consumer for somebody they didn't know, would that process be actually smooth for them?
Yeah, yeah. So you have to start thinking then, where are your customers hanging out? So this isn't a topic for this episode, but that takes you back to have you even identified your target audience? Once you've got that, where are they hanging out? That's where you need to start investing some energy on communication. So if that is social media, which platform are they on? Because I think social media gets bandied around, and we're still guilty of doing this because it's just hardwired into us all, isn't it? You feel like you need to be across all platforms, but just do one platform really, really well. That is going to work for your audience. And once they're there, like, what information are they then consuming? What is the journey? What steps do they need to take to be able to work with you? How many bits of content do they actually need to consume? How often? Then what's the next step? And is it clear what that next step is?
Yeah. Are there contact details on your socials? And that sounds a really obvious thing to say, but sometimes people forget that.
Yeah, people just don't have them on. Or they'll link you through to a website, which is then just full of useless information. And I know that's really harsh.
It's so true. It's so true.
It is harsh, because I know a lot of us in this industry, well, in any industry where you're an entrepreneur and you are the person wearing all the hats and you are doing everything. Let's face it, a lot of us have a do-it-yourself website. Very rarely find people that have invested in air quote proper websites.
But arguably there's nothing wrong with that
I was
if
gonna say,
the
you don't
information is
need
right.
it.
If the information is right.
But this is the downside to do it yourself. You're always in there tweaking it. We've had this conversation before with your old website.
Mm-hmm.
And every time somebody said that they wanted something else, you'd go and create a service. And then it would, poof, appear on the website.
Another page of the website.
But that journey is so important, because if they are landing, so if they've seen, I don't know, let's think of an example. If they've seen something on your social media platform, and I don't know, let's say it's a social walk with a load of dogs, and that's pretty much all that you're putting on social media, because they're good videos, aren't they? Like, you've got a group of dogs together.
Good content.
There's few people. It looks good, and you can probably talk about it because there's lots to talk about. But then they land on your website, and firstly, the page that they are directed to is the homepage. So it has got absolutely zero to do with that social walk post. So already there's a disconnect. But then on that homepage, you're then just greeted by, I don't know, a load about your story and how you got into dogs and all the shiny badges of the CPD stuff. And you can see it, can't you? Like, they're just there's scroll-worthy pages. This is how I can help you with your dog. This is how I train. I use force-free methods. I use these methods. I use that method. Blah, 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 blah.
This association and that association, and I teach this and that. And
yeah.
Which is all very lovely. However, very irrelevant to most
very
people.
relevant to the public. So we've now seen social walk post on your social media. We then land on a homepage website, so not even the direct link to that social walk page. But then I've got to try and find. So I'm guessing if I've seen a social walk and I'm clicking something, I'm interested in booking a social walk. But now I've got to go and find that social walk. So then I click on services. And then services may be broken down into puppy training or adult training. And I'm like, I don't fucking know which one. Like, where's the social walk? Just want the fucking social walk. So I land on, I don't know, we'll click puppy because I've got a puppy and I want a social walk for a puppy. So logically, it would be in there. No. There's classes in there and there's one-to-ones in there. So then I click back out and I go into that adult and no, there's classes in one. Where's the social walks?
It's buried deep, or it's not even on there.
It's not even on there.
It's not even on there.
Yeah. But because it's not clear, it's like, oh, maybe that social walk has been included as part of a, I don't know, it's just an ad hoc thing that you've done and it's good social content. But then
it has no relation
there's nothing I can do.
Anything
there's
to
nothing
anyone.
I can do off the back of that. So that journey isn't clear. So you have to think about, and this is where it comes down to the strategy of your business again. And it's really hard to not interlink all of these things, because you cannot have a social media strategy without having a business strategy, because it affects what you're posting. But again, think about all of these tiny little incremental things that you can do to just make it easier for your customer. If you're not ready to do a deep dive into your big strategy, fine. But using that previous example of that social walk, if you're posting social walks, make sure they're the call to action, that link that you are sending them through to, is for a social walk.
Or let's spin it another way. So in terms of our training businesses, we do social walks. I mean, we're just changing it, but let's say, for argument's sake, we were doing social walks up until very recently as part of our program. So the way that you'd be better spinning that probably is to talk a lot about community, which is what we are big on within our program. So we want people to, the strategy for us is that we're going to retain clients for longer, and we want them to really feel part of a community, you know, and share ideas and help each other. So the social walk is a part of that. So if you can then, your messaging on your website is about, we have this inclusive community space and social walks are part of that. You don't necessarily need to say social walks cost this much and they are on such and such a date. But instead, what you need to sort of start to say is, this is part of our program. This is the ethos of our program, and this is within our programs. And that messaging runs throughout the whole website. People will go, right. So I'd love to be part of those social walks. How do I find out about these programs?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good additional thought.
Angle.
I like it. Yes. But no, it's true. You've got to think of that logical journey. It just wouldn't make sense to anybody in any other industry or environment. If you've seen, I don't know, you see these ads pop up on social media all the time, don't you? And if you've seen a nice pair of shoes or something, and they're like, oh, I like those shoes, click on that. And then if it takes you through to the homepage of the actual, I'm like, where's the shoes?
It happens so much, doesn't it?
So annoying.
And do you know what? In this day and age, because we've got no patience and everything happens quickly in a second, I will just click back out and go, forget that. And they've lost me.
Yeah, same. Whereas if it took me straight to the shoe page, I'm like, oh, there you go. There's the information that I needed. There's the price. That's the website it's on. And I can make a decision if I want to buy it there or then.
Or actually, I'm going to change that. I would only persist in looking through the website if it was something that I absolutely, like 100% knew I was going to purchase there and then.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it anywhere else. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll do the work that's involved to actually find the pair of shoes. But otherwise, no, it's too difficult. If they just catch my eye and I'm like, oh, I quite like them. Oh, I don't like them enough, and carry on.
Yeah. And that's it. It's that short attention span, isn't it? So you always have to think, and this is where it's challenging and it's not easy to do this work, because customers are people. People have different thought processes. You're not going to do the same for everybody. Everybody's going to think differently. But en masse, make it simple for somebody to follow logically what that next step is. So if it's a social media post, that takes you through to the website. What information needs to be on the website from that post that they've clicked? You have to think about the connecting dots. If someone's landed on your website from a Google search, that's a different search bit in itself. That's not been a specific bit of content that's driven them to the website. So in those cases, it may make more sense to go to a homepage, but then be mindful what's on the homepage. Think about what they've typed into Google to find you. Is it dog trainer near me? Let's face it, it's likely, isn't it? Or dog groomer near me, or whatever it is. It's those ones that pop up. But arguably, without doing the work as well in looking into how people are landing onto your website and even talking to people that do say that they found you on Google, what did you type into Google? I ask it all the time. When you say Google, it's like, oh, what did you search for Google, or what was it on Google that then made you click through? And I go, I don't know. Or if someone says to you, I typed in, my dog's acting aggressively, or my dog's reacting to something, and then they've clicked on my website off the back of that. If I know I'm trying to attract reactive dogs, guess what the first bit of that website needs to start saying? You've landed on the right place. We deal with reactive dogs. Not, hi, I'm Jo. I've got 10 years experience in, I don't know why I'm doing the stupid voice, but that's how it comes across. That's how it comes across though, isn't it? It's like, hi, it's all me.
I don't think in a general sense, in my experience, people don't utilise the homepage anywhere near enough. Think of that like your shop window to the rest of your website, and give a flavour for all the things that you do offer then, so that there's opportunities for people to click through to things off of that front page, that homepage.
Yeah. And again, like, do people even use your website? People spend so much time and money, really, like on these do-it-yourself websites. Like, people will invest in a website, and arguably in this day and age, it's questionable whether you need one in the get-go. They're always really useful to have. Like you say, it's that shop window. But depending on which stage of business you're in, I'd argue they're not a necessity in the early days. But it's how they're being used. It's, are your customers actually using them? Are they landing on them? Because if they're not, and they're coming through social media, why are we spending all of our time and energy prattling about on a website when actually social media is where your inquiries are coming in from? Arguably, I'd say for our business, it's the other way around. We get very little off social media, and we don't actively do much on social media for the training business. We do it in our group, but even that's a bit sporadic.
But then if our focus was on it, we could probably build that up more. Like, we've got a Facebook group that we don't utilise enough, and we know we don't at the moment because our focus is in other areas like this.
but we know we get inquiries off of Google. So we utilise Google My Business, and we focus on getting the reviews on Google, and we know that that's where people are searching for us. So that's where the time and energy goes into, and that's established enough that it gets enough inquiries for us with our high ticket that we don't need to worry about loads of inquiries. But we know that Google is the main source of where that comes from.
Yeah. But again, it's back to that thing of just, instead of focusing on every single possible way of getting people in, just do one thing really well, or two at a push. Do those really well and put all of your energies into those, rather than thinking, oh, I need to do that and that and that and the other. And then you have that overwhelming thing where you do none of it and nothing ever gets your full focus. So much better, isn't it, to do one, think of one avenue and do that absolutely awesomely.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to, and you have to know where your audience, you have to know what's working, and you're not going to know what's working until you start testing it. And I don't think people in any industry, I don't think this is just specific to ours, I don't think any of us invest enough time and patience into the testing of something.
No.
Realistically, you'd need at least 3 months to know if, let's say, Facebook, if that's going to be your choice of media, you would arguably need 90 days, 3 months-ish, daily posting to see if that platform works for you.
Yeah. Takes a while, doesn't it?
Daily. And the more you do, the better. Like, if that is your 100% focus, that's where all your messaging is going, after 90 days, and check the stats as well. Like, right, if you're starting off on day one, what's the current number of followers, likes you've got? How many people are engaging on your posts? How many comments are you getting?
And even page views. Yeah. It doesn't mean that somebody who hasn't liked it hasn't seen it and taken the information in.
The stats. And then after a consistent 90-day period, where are you at?
Yeah, we're quite impatient, aren't we?
Very impatient.
We are in a general sense, but dog trainers particularly are. That's not working. I'm going to stop doing that. And it's only been a couple of weeks.
I'd say less than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've definitely felt it, like, especially when you've spent ages and you craft the post. And let's face it, typically it's because we're crafting an offer, isn't it? To go, I need some money.
Buy this.
I need some money. Here's a new service I've created, or here's a new puppy class that I'm running, or whatever it may be. Here's the post, put it out. It looks great. I'm really happy with that. And you hit publish, and then you sat there staring at the screen, and then you come out of it, and then you go back in just to see how many people have like responded to it. I'm like, oh. And maybe a day's gone by. I'm like, oh, no one's seen it. And then maybe you don't even get any engagement on it. And then we go, oh, it didn't work. I'm not using it. Not doing it again.
So a little bit of stats for you. What's the figure that someone needs to see the same information or some information from you about a certain thing where their brain starts absorbing the information?
11.
Yeah, it varies, doesn't it, between who you talk to, but it's like between 8 and 11 pieces of content that people need to consume. And it can be the same product or service, but in different forms. So it could be a podcast, it could be a social media post, it could be a website, it could be all different forms of absorbing that information. But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, like 11 touch points with at least 7 hours of consumable stuff.
So if you think about it in those terms, let's think of social media for a start off. We assume, and I know we know this, like we all know this, that not everybody sees every post you put on, but we forget when we do the post, we're like, that's it, everybody who is in my community is going to see this. And they don't. And we know this because we have been kind of asking these questions and we've been trying to get feedback on this. People are, oh, just didn't see that. No, I've got no idea that you put that out. And it's things that we might have done multiple times as well and they've not seen it. So another piece of advice is when you look at your own Facebook feed or Instagram feed, you see everything and you think, oh my God, I've done that so many times. It's the same thing. Like people are going to be sick of it. Half the people haven't even seen it in the first place. And then we look at that. We need to keep consuming that same content so it becomes familiar. And it's like, oh, that's that thing again. Oh, I keep seeing that. And you do it on scrolling through Facebook, don't you, with the adverts? And like a guy from our mastermind, he's constantly in there, Matt, He's always popping up on my Facebook, like, there's Matt again, there's Matt again. And it's funny because we know him, and he's like, oh, that's that like guy, our mate that we know. And he keeps popping up on Facebook. But it's so familiar that I might go, if I didn't know who he was, and be like, do you know what? I'm going to have a look at that because I've seen that a few times now. And his posts are really engaging, actually, because he gives like really nice little videos of value, sales training. Actually, we're going to get him on, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
Soon. But for me, it's that perfect example of going, I've seen that loads of times and that's intriguing me. I'm going to click on it this time. So it might be that they've scrolled by several times before, but then that one time you look familiar to them and they're like,
Yeah. And it makes... It's so logical and so bloody common sense, isn't it? When you look at that screen, even if you've got like a big phone, there's still only so many posts you can see in a scroll. And unless you are scrolling the entire day, and I know we all scroll the entire day, but they're intermittent bursts, aren't they? Like you literally grab 5 minutes, scroll, come off, go back on, scroll. How many people, like even if you look at your own platform, whether it's your personal page, your business page, whatever it is, and if you've got, even choose a low figure. Let's say you've even got like 50 people on it. Are 50 people guaranteed to see your post when they've got connections with maybe another 50 people? And then that person's got another connection with another 50 people. So before you know it, you've only got like, two or three things you can see on a screen at a time. So each scroll, and you're contending with 50, 100, hundreds of thousands of people.
And that's not even going into the algorithms and the whole behind that.
No.
It chooses what it shows you. It depends on so many factors.
Yeah. And it's easy to do, isn't it? Like the amount of times we sit down, even for these podcast episodes, and go, right, what are we going to talk about? And then we go, oh, we did that before. And then we're like, actually, no.
We just had the same conversation before we've done this episode. We're like, that was, A, it was ages ago. And B, it needs to be, all that information needs to be consumed more than once.
Yeah. But it's in your head all the time. It's still in our heads. And like, we know that we need to keep telling you all this message. And because it's our platform and we're going, yeah, look, we're talking about it all the time. Surely you're going to get the gist by now. Well, no, because again, realistically, this episode lands once a week. It's an hour of your life, probably less than that. And if you're listening to it in and out of whilst you're driving, you may not even retain all the information anyway. And then you're busy, believe it or not. Like we are not in your ear 24/7.
And also you might drift off, because I listen to audiobooks in the car and sometimes I'm just in my own little world and I go, oh, I've got an audiobook on. I need to focus back on that. Yeah. And it's not because the content's by any way boring. No, it's just that your thoughts just take you away and you've got loads of other things going on in your head. So that's number one. Number two, not everybody listens to these podcasts every week. Mm-hmm. You haven't probably got time to do that, or you forget, or again, life gets in the way. Yep. So there might be a period, and it might be you're binging a few episodes together and you go, oh, I have just heard that, but it's good to hear it again because it just solidifies all that in my brain.
So all of that comes into that customer journey though, because they have to consume enough from you. Like the magical figure is around 7 hours of content they need to consume. So that's in video format, written format, audible format, various different formats, and see it a lot of times. So when we go into saying, oh, A, we're not getting enough inquiries, again, that's a whole other thing, but that ties in with that. But then this also ties in with that customer journey, because if you're only expecting that inquiry to come in, see a post you've done saying you've got a puppy class coming up and then book straight onto it, I mean, you may get them.
Yeah, the odd one.
And inevitably you will get the odd one. But again, what's that journey like? Where are they seeing it? How often have they seen it? How much time have you given them to make a decision? What information is being shared about it? Is it a logical journey from I've seen this to I then go here and then I then go there and then we book? Is it clear? Do I go from, is the journey different from if I see you on social media to I found you on Google to actually someone's recommended you? How are they all coming in? And it's worth sitting down and mapping that process out. So think of all the different ways that somebody could ultimately buy from you, and how do they get there? Because it's not just one route in. There's I've already just said like 3 or 4 there. So then map it out. So what's that next step? So if you're going down that referral route, someone has said, oh, go and try such and such a company. They're really good. They helped me with my dog. Perfect. What's the next step? Well, they're likely, if they've worked with you, they're likely to have your number. So then you're likely to receive a message or a phone call. When are you available? Do you have a voicemail on your phone? How long does it take for you to get back to them? Are you acknowledging the message when it comes in? Do you even pick up the phone if you don't know the number? How many people don't do that?
Yeah, I never used to do that.
But you never know what it's going to be. So what's that journey like? And then if you're not checking your voicemails until a few days later and then you're getting back, that journey's a bit shit. If you've got a hot lead in your inbox going, hello. Yeah,
and a common thing that we hear a lot from different people that work with us in the dog training business is that nobody else got back to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's really quite high, that kind of percentage that people go, oh, do you know what? So nice to actually speak to you, but also nobody else bothered even getting back to me. So you're the only person that's done that. And straight away you're like, haha, I'm elevated then because A, I got back to you and B, I actually called you.
It's quite a scary and sad thought for the industry there, isn't it? That it's that poor that even the potential clients expect to not hear back from people. So they are ringing around until someone answers.
And it might be that you're the third, fourth, fifth person that they call. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, does it? Because you've got them to speak to and do what you will with them. But the other thing that I think is worth saying is a lot of people get calls in, say voicemails in or messages in, and they can't respond straight away because they're out training dogs or they're walking or they're grooming or whatever. And then they'll leave it because they're aware the message is there. They know they've got to get back to somebody, but they haven't got time. So they just kind of go, well, my choice is that I'm just going to leave it until I've got time. And then in doing that, that person is just hanging and they are, as I've just said, going to go to somebody else probably if they haven't heard from you. So even if you just do a little quick voice note or a little video back to them, and just because we're massive on this, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like if you haven't got time to actually call them and you're not in the right headspace, because I know that some people like to be at their desks and have a certain mindset about calling somebody because it can be a big thing for people. I know that. Just do a little voice note and say, hi, so-and-so, got your message, really excited about, wanting to speak to you. Are you free at this time? And just kind of touch base with them and let them know that you've got the message and you're on it rather than just completely tumbleweeding them. Like tumbleweed. We were laughing about tumbleweed earlier in the week because they don't know. They don't know your situation. You know it, but they don't know it. So just communicate with them and just give them an interim something that is you, that is actually your voice or your face, and just do that if nothing else. And it buys you a little bit of time as well.
Yeah, it is. We cannot express how important it is to think about your customers. Again, I know we've said this before, but your clients, they're not the dogs. And I know that might sound really controversial, and I know that a lot of people won't agree with that. They are your clients, but they're not who you need to connect with initially. The dogs don't get a choice.
Do they answer the phone?
It'd be great, wouldn't it? But the dogs don't get a choice on who they're going to work with. So you have to connect with the people. The people are going to give you access to the dogs. And we all seem to, again, it's a bit of a blanket statement, but a fair one, I think. This industry typically doesn't like the people aspect because we've got in for dogs. We love dogs. We want to work with dogs. We care about dogs. Everything we do is about dogs. We study dog knowledge. We study everything to do with body language. We study how we can learn more about this and this and this and this and this. If we spent a fraction of the time, energy, money, commitment, all of it into the people side of this, already I genuinely believe that people's businesses would be elevated.
And also the strategy that comes with the people side of it, because if you don't have a strategy around how you connect with people better and how you map out that journey, it's not going to work anyway. So arguably that's as important as that people bit as well, isn't it?
Yeah. the customer service side of everything is so crucial. You don't necessarily realise the damning effects you're creating by not having a really clear customer journey on both parts. We haven't even touched on when they sign up with you.
No, I feel like there's so much more to explore on this episode. There is one more thing I actually want to touch on, and I feel like it's quite relevant this time of year because we're coming into the dog show season. But another place where your potential clients will hang out will be those kind of places. And this has come up this week actually with one of our coaching clients on the mentoring program, because she was invited to have a stand at a dog show that's coming up, and she wanted a little bit of advice, didn't she, on what to do or what not to do. And we know that a lot of people invest a lot of time and effort into these things, don't we? And I've done it, and you've done it.
Yeah.
And do you know, honestly, they don't really give you a return on all of that time and commitment, or not like a worthwhile one. If you get one person, great, but you've been there all day.
Yeah.
And you've spent all of that time.
Especially if you're only offering ad hoc sessions.
Yes. So instead of that, our advice to our client was to give some value to people. So why don't you instead advertise the fact that you're going to be in a certain space of that dog show at a certain time, and you are there to answer any questions that people have got, or just come and chat to me. I'm a dog trainer, come and chat to me and get to know me. So when we're talking about the people aspect and the human connection aspect, there you go. There's your very first point of contact for somebody to go, wow, this is good. I get to actually come and speak to you and to just get to know you a little bit and see if I like you first. So that's a great opportunity, and that will give much more value to people than you just sat at a stand hoping that somebody stops and asks you a question.
You have to, it's a real strategic play to do shows, I think, because they can work, again, if you are thinking strategically around them and you are doing it more for PR purposes. If you are going with the mindset that you are going to somehow end up with customers on that day, it's unlikely. I mean, if there's anybody out there who is smashing one-off events,
let us know.
Like, well done. Yeah. Because they are a tough crowd, because again, when you're thinking about that customer journey bit, they are not there for dog training needs. They're there to show off their dogs in the fun dog shows. They're there to just go out for a day with their dog and look at all the other dogs. They're not thinking training. So think of it from that PR perspective in going, how is this going to elevate my business? So if you are doing super local targeted shows, and again, kind of coming back to that example of going all in on a 90-day period on Facebook, if doing events and shows wants to be your area of focus because you love doing events and shows, go all in on it. Don't just do one show. It's show season. Get your butt to as many of those as possible within your targeted area. But that has to go alongside another strategy of telling people that you are at that event, because you're just going to be a bit of a background. Like, we do it all the time, don't we? Like, if you go to these big events at like the NEC, a big local place to us, which hosts loads of different events, and they have all the different stalls and stuff when you're there, and you just breeze past them, and some will catch your attention and some won't. It depends what you've gone there for and what you may need at the time. So half of it, I'm just like, I may not even register that you're there because it's not my intention for the reason that I've gone. Whereas if I was going there all the time and I'm seeing the same people, similar to the social media bit, like if they're popping up consistently, I'm like, oh, I've seen you a few times now and I've heard about you, and how can I relate to that? How am I going to need that? So it's a big strategic play, I feel.
But I think in terms of like weighing up what's more valuable to you, I would argue that that is a lot more time and effort than
money.
There's so many other ways you could get clients more easily.
Yeah, you could absolutely do more free things, I think, more organic free things.
Yeah, there are people that hang out in parks and do similar things and just go, hey, come speak to me. And if you've got an hour to spare and you want to go down your local park and you're there regularly, people will get to know that and go, that's that girl. Like, I've heard about her. Or I've seen her before. I'm going to go and speak to her actually, because I have got something's cropped up, and there you go. So you've got an in. But again, you can do that, and it's only an hour of your time if you really want to. So it's all these ways. But I think, again, think of it in terms of talking to people, connecting with people, and getting people to like and trust and know who you are, and your familiarity is going to pay dividends over any other kind of method. Yeah.
Brilliant. So to summarize then, key points of the customer journey.
Figure out where your ideal clients are hanging out.
Yep.
Messaging, kind of talk about in another episode, but get that absolutely amazing so people actually know who it is that you are and what you do.
Yeah. And then map out the logical next step.
Make it easy. Make it simple. Make it smooth. Don't make them click away like the pair of shoes that doesn't click through to the right page.
You like that example, don't you?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Fabulous. All right then. Well, thank you ever so much for listening to today's episode. Please give us a like, follow and share, and we'll see you next time.